Every vote counts, but every voter faces different challenges just to cast a ballot.
If you don't know that your polling site has changed and you show up and you've only allotted that hour to get that done, then to get back to work, now you're disenfranchised because you weren't expecting that. You didn't know that your polling site would be closed. You didn't know where you had to get that updated information.
Aklima Kondokar of the nonpartisan group All Voting is Local says Georgia has failed a simple math problem: adding voters while subtracting polling places.
With millions of voters waiting to cast their ballots, it's unacceptable for us to have fewer locations.
Some people who used to be able to walk to their polling place now have to take one bus or a transfer to another bus to a location.
Not everybody has the same level of access. So it's not necessarily a choice that people are making, saying that it's not worth my time. I think the real issue is that for Black and brown voters who may have to work hourly jobs, who may have to work 2 and 3 jobs.
The system is a joke, and we're not laughing.
Nearly half of all the Black voters in Georgia live in the 4 metro Atlanta counties of Cobb, Gwinnett, DeKalb, and Fulton. For the June primary alone, Fulton closed 45 polling locations.
I've been in line since 6 this morning. It's almost 9 a.m. and I have not moved at all.
Fulton's precinct issues were widespread, from southeast Atlanta to Midtown's Park Tavern and beyond.
It's a math problem. They had 16,000 plus people who were registered to vote, all coming to vote at that location. The situation you saw at Park Tavern was 100% driven by COVID, but was also exacerbated by Fulton County decisions.
Gabriel Sterling oversees the new voting system. His boss, the Secretary of State, forced Fulton County to expand access for the general election.
Even Fulton County has added dozens of polling places over what we saw in June, correct?
They've added not dozens, they've added 91 new polling locations.
But that also means hundreds of thousands of Election Day voters will cast their ballots at a new location.
When you move that polling place away from somebody, they become less likely to vote. In fact, you can put a number on that. You move a polling place a quarter mile away from a voter, and they become 1 percentage point less likely to vote.
Dr. Charles Stewart at MIT is an expert on voting lines.
There tends to be a disproportionate effect on communities of color. Black and brown communities tend to have, worse roads, worse sidewalks, worse schools. It's in a sense not surprising that they would also have less access to in-person voting.
The nonpartisan Brennan Center for Justice found the average Black voter waits 45% longer than the average white voter.
Is this intentional disenfranchisement of certain voters, particularly non-white voters, or is it simply the net effect of a system that needs to be overhauled?
Voters in these communities get harmed coming and going, perennially underserved and disadvantaged, especially in times of crisis. And then the vote itself may be the only or the most effective mechanism to overcome these disparities, and there will be even greater frustrations when it's harder to vote.
How did we get here? The 2013 Shelby v. Holder decision by the U.S. Supreme Court struck down parts of the Voting Rights Act that required Georgia and other states to get pre-approval from the Justice Department before closing or moving a polling place.
Now counties can just decide to close locations without providing cause.
We have millions more voters since Shelby v. Holder, but statistically, we've got fewer polling places. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, and those are county-level decisions. And in some counties, it makes sense because, take Lumpkin County, for instance. They've collapsed down to a single polling location because they found it's the best thing for their voters.
The best thing for Georgia voters has been 3 weeks of early voting and no excuse access to absentee ballots.
No one ever thought we were going to have 4 million votes before Election Day.
That means well over half of all active voters in Georgia have already cast their ballots, which will hopefully lead to a smoother Election Day. But the longer lines we've seen serve as a warning. Increased voter demand and greater struggles to access the most basic right of democracy.
Please vote. Your vote matters. Your voice matters. And the state of Georgia needs your vote. So please vote.